This episode of Voices of the Elephant is brought to you by Nomad PHP. Start a habit of continuous learning. Visit nomadphp.com and subscribe today. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Voices of the Elephant. My name is Cal Evans, and we're here in St. Louis, Missouri at PHP Tek 2016. And my guest here is my good friend, Mr. Joe McGill. Say hi to everybody, Joe.
Hello, how are you?
Now, Joe, we're going to talk a little bit because you work a lot with WordPress.
I do.
But you also work in education. And
yes.
So let's talk a little bit about what you do, your day job and stuff like that. Then we'll talk more in depth about WordPress.
Sure. So I work here in the city of St. Louis at Washington University in St. Louis as a part of the digital marketing team in public affairs. Lead a team of developers there that do all of the main website work for the university. We are mainly a WordPress focused shop and handle everything from the flagship Whistle.edu site through the admissions site, lots of other initiatives.
How many sites are we looking at?
So we host about 300 WordPress sites on campus. Now there are other schools within the university that have their own IT departments that run a lot more sites than that on some Drupal, some SharePoint, and WordPress. So we do a lot of different things, but our team focuses mainly on the WordPress side of things. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, do you do most of your theming and plugin and all of that development in-house, or do you, like most of us who use WordPress, because I'm a long-time WordPress user, do you use the plugins and themes that you find on the Codex or purchase them elsewhere?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of our own custom development. That's mainly what we do, but we certainly will make use of the great resources that are available through the community. So, advanced custom fields or some really popular plugins that you probably have heard of. We'll make use of those rather than reinventing the wheel, because why reinvent the wheel, right? That's part of the beauty of the community, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would you say is the most used plugin that y'all use at Washington University?
Oh gosh, ACF probably is one of them.
Okay.
We also, there's a plugin that we use that helps us convert sort of the authentication of users in WordPress to our sort of central single sign-in auth system called Shibboleth that we use at the university, and so that's installed on every single site. So that's probably the most used.
I can see that. I can see that. Just a personal curiosity, because I've been fighting this battle with several of my sites recently. Do you have a caching plugin that you normally use?
So we have a great systems administrator that works as part of our central IT team that has set up sort of our own internal high availability system using Varnish sort of as a front-end cache system, and so we sort of put together our own internal plugin that manages that for our case.
Valid. I don't have any such admin, so I'm still looking at the different plugins, and W3C Cache is a wonderful tool, but oh my God,
it's got a lot of options. It's like trying to fly a helicopter some days. So
it really is.
WP Super Cache is another good one.
Okay.
It's pretty simple right out of the box to use. That's probably the first one I look at.
I've been playing with my personal site, and it's actually working very well because my personal site is very simple. Simple Cache by Taylor Levitt. That's working very well on my personal site, but I tried it on a couple others and I ran into some issues. So it's one of those, if it works very good. If it doesn't work, it foobars the site. So,
Right. Yeah, the most common thing that I've seen with some of those is that you turn them on, and if they do sort of concatenate and minify all of your front-end scripts and CSS, and they don't do them in a way that your theme expects, sometimes that'll cause you some problems. I've seen that on some client sites.
Yeah.
But usually turning that option off is the best option.
Well, the thing I love about this is there is, to the best of my knowledge, two options. One of them is how long do you want to cache?
Right.
And the other one is, do you want to gzip it also?
Right.
And since I have Apache gzipping, I turned that off. But there are it's not difficult to operate. And like I said, it's hit or miss. No offense, Taylor. I love the plugin from my personal side. Yeah, but it's one of those you're going to have to turn it on and see if it works for you. And if it does, run with it. If it doesn't, No.
Yeah.
I've actually submitted a pull request that had the good sense to decline. Because they don't let me code for a reason. But he's very nice to work with. Very good guy. Hey, before we go on, I want to say that our sponsor for this episode is Nomad PHP. Nomad PHP is a virtual PHP user group. If you don't have a local PHP user group, we would love to have you as a member of Nomad PHP. You can get all the information out at nomadphp.com. We do 2 meetings every month. We would love to see you at our next meeting. Start a habit of continuous learning today. Join Nomad PHP. So, in addition to your day job,
Yes.
you are a core committer for WordPress.
I was newly announced a guest committer. I've been
guest
doing
committer, okay.
Yes, which means that they, for some reason, decided to trust me for a little while with the keys of the car. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. We'll see. But yeah, I've been contributing code to core for a little over, maybe close to 2 years now. Helped get the responsive images feature into WordPress core
Nice.
4. And some other work primarily around sort of images and media and WordPress. So yeah,
Very cool. Well, tell us, what's that community like? Because I deal a lot with the WordPress community, but it's at the community level. I spoke at our last group, or our last user group meeting, and I love the WordPress community. But once you get up into the actual core developers, I don't see a lot of them, and I'm just saying it's just not that group that I run in. So tell us a little bit, give us your impressions of the core community.
Sure. So my experience has been that the core community has been really, really great and helpful. So the main place that most of those people are is in the WordPress Slack channel.
Mm-hmm.
There are weekly meetings where you can, this was game changing for me when I found out that this was a thing, that you can go watch the conversations that are happening about what's happening in WordPress development, as it's happening live. And I just, a couple years ago, just went in, and previously it was an IRC, and it moved to Slack a couple years ago, and just didn't talk at all, just watched the conversation happening and learned so much about the software I was using every day that it encouraged me to sort of get involved in a little more deep level. And everybody that I worked with there is great. A lot of these people, there's 2 ways that you can get them to review your code. One is you hire them at really, really high level, a cost level to have them review your PHP code. The other way that you can have them review your code is submit patches to WordPress, and you get some of the best developers in the WordPress world that will take time to review your code, give you tips and that sort of thing. And that's been instrumental for me for the last couple of years.
Yeah, everything I've heard about it, there's a very deep talent pool there in the core group.
Great.
Now, you said you're a guest committer. I called you a core committer. That's not exactly true. You do commit to the core, but you're a guest committer. What's the difference between a guest committer and a core committer?
Sure. So the way the project is set up, there is a group of lead developers that really are the ones who are primarily responsible for the product, and then there are permanent committers, and those are the folks who over time have established themselves as people who are trusted authorities who just have commit access to the repository. And then occasionally they will bring on people sort of as a trial basis to work on particular parts, and they'll give them commit access to do that sort of thing, and that's called guest committer status. And that's the thing that for some reason they decided to allow me to do. And then anyone who contributes a patch to WordPress at any point, they are essentially given a contributor status. And if you had contributed a patch that made it into a release, and we do 3 releases a year, your name shows up in the credits screen, and it's kind of cool. The first time that you get a patch put in, and you see the props in your name, and that version comes out, and the credit screen pops up, and you see your little name listed there. It's a cool feeling. It's fun to get involved that way, and I would recommend anyone who's interested to check that out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, before I let you go, same questions I ask. Say 2 questions I ask everybody. What's your local user group, and what's the URL?
Sure. So we have a local WordPress group that you can find on meetups here in St. Louis. STLWP.org, I believe. I should know that off the top of my head, but I do know. And we just sponsored St. Louis WordCamp recently, a couple weeks ago at Washington University. Had a couple hundred people come out, and it's fun. We're helping to build more community involvement here in St. Louis around WordPress, around PHP work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your conference schedule to be with us here on Nomad PHP, or on Voices of the Elephant.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing what you know by creating a talk and sharing it with the rest of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for tuning in. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for listening to Voices of the Elephant. Voices of the Elephant is copyright EICC Incorporated and released under a Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Share and Share Alike license. To nominate someone to be a guest on Voices of the Elephant, visit our website and click on the Nominate link. The URL is voicesoftheelephant.com. Elephant is, of course, spelled ELEPHPANT.